Hey, good morning, my dear students. How are you all? Welcome back to your social studies virtual classroom. Today, in this video lesson, we are going to start our new chapter of history, chapter number 8, the First Empire, the Mauryas. In this chapter, we are going to study all the important facts or information related to the Mauryan dynasty. Okay, so we have already discussed these chapter in the WebEx classes. So this is a small summary of the whole chapter, basically a revision that I have made for you. So please listen to this very carefully, and before starting, let me once again remind you to please like and subscribe to my channel. So let's start. The first empire, the Mauryas. The Mauryas established the first ever empire in the history of India. Why it was called an empire? Because it was much larger than a kingdom and it was spread over a vast area. Means it covers more land, or it controls more land than any previous ruler or dynasty. That is why it is known as the first empire. Students, you can see in this map also the green portion. This is the Mauryan Empire. It was spread over a vast area. It covers almost whole of the Indian subcontinent. Okay, that is why it came to be known as the first ever empire in the history of India. Now, the main sources of information on the Mauryas are the two books. Okay, these two books are number one, Indica, which was written by Megasthenes, and second one was Arthashastra, which was written by Kautilya. Indica, this book tells us about the political, social, and economic conditions of the people during that time. And the Arthashastra, it deals with the administration. It tells us about the administration system of the Mauryas. We are going to discuss all these in detail in the chapter. Okay. Not only these two books, we have other sources also which gives us information about the Mauryan rulers. There are rocks, there are pillar edicts of Emperor Ashoka, which are also equally valuable source. These edicts were inscribed on rocks and stone pillars. Then there are inscriptions in large number that were present. Then there are coins also, which are also important source of information. Now, Chandragupta Maurya was the first ruler or the founder of the Mauryan dynasty. He overthrew the last Nanda ruler in 321 BCE. So, he ruled from 321 to 297 BCE. He was supported by his minister Chanakya, who was also known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta. Chanakya had a great influence in the formation of his empire. So together they both, Chanakya and Chandragupta Maurya, they both established or they both built one of the largest empires on the Indian subcontinent. So Chanakya, with his strategies, influenced the thinking of Chandragupta Maurya, and they both together founded this Mauryan Empire. Chandragupta was succeeded by his son Bindusara in 297 BCE. He ruled from 297 to 273 BCE. He defeated the rulers of 16 kingdoms and then added their lands to his empire. So, under him, the Mauryan Empire spread across the whole of the Indian subcontinent, except for some parts, that is the Kalinga, which is now present-day Odisha, and a few kingdoms in the south. Only some parts were not under his control, but other than that, most of the Indian subcontinent was under his control. But Mauryans were still friendly with the kings of south. Okay. Then comes Ashoka, also known as Ashoka the Great. He was the most famous Mauryan king and one of the greatest rulers ever in the Indian history. He governed his kingdom very well. His numerous rock and pillar edicts, which are spread over a large part of India, give us a lot of information about this great ruler. When Ashoka became the king, Kalinga was the only kingdom which was not under Mauryan control. Kalinga was an important area as it controlled the land and sea routes to South India and Southeast Asia. Since Kalinga was such a prosperous state, it has a lot of trade connections because it is near to the Bay of Bengal Sea. That is why it is connected, it is easily accessible or connected to different parts of the world with the help of sea routes. That is why every kingdom or ruler wanted to conquer the Kalinga. This also made Ashoka attacked Kalinga and conquered it. For this, he fought a very hard battle. This battle started in 261 BC. But after looking at the consequences of this war, the death, the destruction, and the suffering that he saw in the war made him very sad. He realized that fighting war is useless. It is of no use. And he promised himself that this is his last war. After this, he will never gonna fight any war or any battle with anyone. So this was a turning point in his life. So Ashoka gave up the policy of conquest through war and began to follow the policy of conquest through Dharam. Okay, Dharam. Dhamma is the Prakrit word for the Sanskrit word Dharam, which means religious duty. He now conquered people or regions with his religion. Rather than fighting with them, rather than fighting battles or wars with them, he won them with his own religion. So that is why spreading Dhamma became Ashoka's goal in life. His Dhamma never involved worship of a god or a performance of sacrifices. Rather, it was a code of conduct and morals that he wanted the people to follow in their life. It was totally inspired by the teachings of Lord Buddha. So through Dhamma, he wanted the people, or he asked the people, to follow certain principles like speak the truth, then respect other religions. Like you respect your religion, you should respect other religion also. Then third one is obey your elders. Follow the path of ahimsa. Follow the path of non-violence. Practice charity towards the poor. Be kind to all, including your servants and slaves. Live together peacefully. Ashoka was deeply concerned about the welfare of the people of his empire. So he took certain welfare measures, like he built good roads and planted trees on both sides of the road. He constructed rest houses for the travelers. He constructed a large number of wells. He also built many hospitals for people and animals. He regularly went on tours and tried to solve the problem of his people. He did his best to ensure that the people of his empire were happy every time. So these were the welfare measures he adopted to ensure that people are happy. Ashoka also wanted people to understand his religion. He wanted them to follow it in their daily lives and to take benefit from it. But so he took many steps to spread Dhamma. Okay, he took three main steps to spread Dhamma. First one is he led a personal example. He followed the principles of Dhamma in his own daily life. So he led an example. See, I am also following it. So you should also follow it. Then second one, he put the edicts on which he has inscribed his principles at the public places, like in markets or temples where a large number of people get together. Then third measure that he took was he appointed officers who are called Dharma Mahamatras to spread Dhamma. These officers visit different places to spread the message of Dhamma among the people. Now let us learn about the Mauryan administration. Mauryan administration can be divided into four divisions: central, provincial, district, and then comes the villages. So the first administration level is the central level. At the central level, the king was the supreme authority. He took all the decisions. Important decisions was taken only by the king. He took the help of council of ministers. Then, since Mauryan Empire was a very vast empire, that is why it was divided into many provinces, and head of each province is the prince, but the main authority, prince was the representative of king only. Then comes the district. These provinces were further divided into districts, and the head of each district is Pradeshta. He was assisted by Yuktas and Rajukas. Then a number of villages made up a district. Each village had a headman who was chosen by the villagers themselves. So these are the four levels of administration in the Mauryan Empire. Because Patliputra was the capital of the empire, that is why Patliputra have a different type of administration, means it follows different type of administration. It was surrounded by a wooden wall which had 64 gates and 570 towers in the city. There was also a moat around the city to protect it from the enemy attacks. You can see in this image this water body that surrounds the whole empire or the kingdom was a moat. This was called a moat which protect the empire from the enemies. During the Mauryan Empire, land revenue was the main source of income. It was fixed between 1/4 and 1/6 of the produce, depending upon the fertility of the soil. If your fertility is higher, you will give more revenue, and if it is low, you will give less revenue from your production. Okay, so revenue was also obtained from the trade. There are other sources of income also, like forest, mines, fines and gifts. The money that is collected through these taxes were spent on maintaining the army, paying salary to government officers, charities to the poor, and on public welfare activities like building of hospitals, building of roads. So these were the main sources of income, and this was the revenue system of the Mauryan Empire. Now with this, our topics come to an end. So in this chapter, basically we have studied about the Mauryan dynasty. How was the Mauryan dynasty evolved, how it developed, and how was the administration system during that time, how was their revenue system during that time. So we have studied every detail about the Mauryan dynasty. Now these are the home task question for you that you have to do in your notebook. If you still have any query, you can ask in the next WebEx classes. Thank you for watching, students. Take good care of yourselves.